Greetings from the beautiful country of Ukraine. For many years prior to the most recent Russian offensive, Ukraine has been at odds with Russia. In this latest chapter of the war, millions of Ukrainians have been internally displaced, meaning they moved from one part of the country to another. Millions more have fled the country altogether, causing the largest refugee crisis in Europe since World War II. This has created an opportunity for Christians around the world to help these people in their time of need. Many of you watching this have been a blessing through Feed the Hunger to so many Ukrainians. Our partners here have done a tremendous job deploying the food and resources you've made possible. Ukraine is known as the breadbasket of Europe and is one of the world's largest exporters of grain, among other resources. So you can imagine the ripple effect of its resources being severely impacted by the war. It's not our purpose today to get into all of the reasons for this conflict between Russia and Ukraine, but it is safe to say that this war is having global, not just regional, ramifications. When we consider the wider world through time, it seems we experience far more periods of war than times of peace. We are in a perpetual state of religious, ethnic, geographic, and political conflict. These are the battles we can clearly see and study throughout history. As Christians, we know there's also an ongoing battle we can't see, which is in the spiritual realm. When did this supernatural war between good and evil start? It began with the fall of Satan and man's subsequent giving in to temptation, allowing sin to plague mankind until the future second coming of Christ. Ever since the original sin of Adam and Eve, our fallen nature has led to fallen actions in the physical realm, and the fight for our souls has been there all along in the spiritual realm as well. We are in a perpetual battle. Well, what does the Bible have to say about God's role in war? As Moses declares in Exodus 15:3, the Lord is a warrior. Over and over again in the Old Testament, God repeatedly dictates the outcomes of battles, often intervening in response to the prayers of His people. King David asks and answers his own question. Who is this King of glory? The Lord, strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. He knew God was in control. This is why he declares to Goliath, the battle is the Lord's. In the New Testament, the focus switches more to spiritual warfare. Paul encourages Timothy to be like a good soldier of Christ Jesus. And in Ephesians chapter 6, Paul encourages the church in Ephesus, and subsequently us, how to be good soldiers. Starting in verse 10, he exhorts us to be strong in the Lord and in His mighty power, so we can boldly stand against the devil's schemes. He then details the spiritual nature of Satan's forces, and this verse is very sobering for us. For our struggles is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Next, in verses 13 through 17, he lists the spiritual weapons at the believer's disposal, the full armor needed for the ongoing battle. They are the belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the shoes of readiness, the shield of faith, the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit, which is, of course, the Bible. Last but certainly not least, in verse 18, Paul admonishes believers to pray a lot on all occasions and for all kinds of needs, for themselves and for each other. There is a final battle coming, as mentioned in Revelation 20, verse 8, and we know who wins it. So, as we go about our daily lives, let us be reminded of the spiritual battle going on around us. God has given us the victory over death and the grave through Jesus Christ. Knowing this, let us not live in fear, because God gives us power, love, and self-discipline. My prayer for you is the assurance we have in Psalm 28:7. The Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts in Him, and He helps me. The Lord bless you and keep you as you fight the spiritual battle.